Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Creating Communities of Welcome webinar series. We'll wait another minute for everyone to join. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar in the Creating Communities of Welcome series. Today's topic is Sponsorship 101. We will provide an overview of the Uniting for Ukraine initiative and what community sponsorship is. We will review the application process to become a sponsor, the legal requirements for being a sponsor, and how to be connected with the newcomer. My name is Denise Bell, and I head partnerships at welcome.us. I am also very fortunate to be a co-founder of the organization. Joining us today are Olga Khomyak, an immigration attorney and a member of the Ukraine Immigration Task Force, Aubrey Grant, program officer at the Community Sponsorship Hub, Deb Stein, senior liaison for strategic partnerships at the Community Sponsorship Hub, and Rachel Quint, vice president of operations strategies at welcome.us. And as we begin, we'd just like to go over some housekeeping. Our first point is that today's webinar is being recorded. The chat feature will be disabled. You may submit a question at any time using the Q&A function in your Zoom toolbar. To keep this event a safe and supportive environment for all participants, we will remove attendees who engage in any form of harassment, offensive, discriminatory, or threatening speech or behavior. And with that, let's begin. Welcome.us was established in September of last year, and our mission is simple: to inspire, mobilize, and empower Americans to welcome newcomers, meet their essential needs, and help them thrive. We serve as a hub and a partner helping to connect and support welcomers and newcomers. And as we do that, we work very closely with partners such as Community Sponsorship Hub and the Ukraine Immigration Task Force, and many people on this call today, to mobilize Americans to welcome newcomers. Again, today we will be specifically focusing on sponsoring Ukrainians through the Uniting for Ukraine initiative. The Uniting for Ukraine program is a new US government program that allows Ukrainians fleeing the war in their home country to seek entry to the US with the help of an American sponsor. And I would like, with that, to turn to Olga, who is an expert in sponsorship, the Uniting for Ukraine program, and the intricacies of what it takes to become a sponsor. So Olga, you're a member of the Ukraine Immigration Task Force. Can you tell us about your organization and how it is supporting the Uniting for Ukraine initiative?
Sure. Thank you so much, Denise. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. As mentioned before, my name is Olga Khomyak. I am an immigration attorney licensed practicing in state of New York, and member of the Ukrainian Immigration Task Force. The task force began as an organization that was striving to provide information to people in Ukraine, as well as their relatives here in the United States, with respect to the options that were available for them. We haven't had a goal at the beginning, so we were trying to involve many things. It was advocacy, it was education, it was putting the organization together and finding the appropriate resources. Currently, we do strive to involve as many nonprofit organizations as possible, as well as work with governmental organizations and organizations like welcome.us to be able to accumulate all the resources that are out there and present it to the people. Attorneys like me and other members of the Ukraine Immigration Task Force are working closely with the communities that are around us, with Ukrainians that are still in Ukraine, to be able to provide them as much information as possible about what exists currently in the United States and how they can use these resources.
Great, thank you so much, Olga. And so for the Uniting for Ukraine initiative, that allows for entry to the US Ukrainians with the help of a sponsor. Who can be a sponsor? Does it have to be a family member? And what else can you tell us?
Sure. So I guess a better word to call a person who is a sponsor is a supporter. That is to distinguish a supporter from a person who is sponsoring an immigrant, like a family member or an employer. So a supporter can be a person who is in legal status in the United States. That is a vital, eligibility criteria. It doesn't have to be a family member. So as I mentioned, somebody in lawful status in the United States, it can be a parolee or beneficiary of a deferred action or a deferred enforced departure. And they have to be willing and able to receive, maintain, and support the beneficiary. And the first step in all of this process is filing Form I-134.
Great. And before we get to the Form I-34, and thank you very much, I will ask you to walk us through that. What do you think is the most important thing for a potential sponsor to consider when they are deciding whether sponsorship under the Uniting for Ukraine program is right for them?
Sure. So one of the first steps that a supporter has to consider is whether they will be able to receive the beneficiary upon arrival in the United States, provide them with the proper transportation, to their initial housing, ensuring that the beneficiary has safe and appropriate housing for the duration of the parole, and some of the initial basic necessities. Also, as appropriate, the supporter has to be able to help the beneficiary complete the necessary paperwork, for example, to get the employment authorization, to get a social security card, and for other services that they might be eligible. Also ensure that the beneficiary's healthcare and medical needs are met for the duration of the parole, and as well as assisting the beneficiary with accessing such basic needs as education, as learning English, securing employment, enrolling the children in school. So besides having some financial resources, the supporter should check with herself, and the family whether they will be able to support this other person that is coming, or a family that is coming to them, and have time to do that.
No, you're absolutely right. And thank you for laying that out, that overview. And I know that really the first step is for a sponsor and Ukrainian seeking sponsorship to be connected. And we will get to that next. That will be Rachel, who will give us a demonstration of how to do that through Welcome Connect. But assuming that connection is made, Olga, could you walk us through actually the Form I-134 and the application process so that our viewers can have a better understanding of what this entails?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So I don't have, Denise, a form open in front of me. Is there a way for us to see it, or is it just general overview? Great. Thank you so much. So sponsor can find Form I-134 on the USCIS website, and supporter is supposed to create an account from which they will be completing Form I-134. Besides providing some basic information about himself or herself, like an address, where do they work, what is their position, the sponsor is supposed to provide the documentary evidence that they are that they would be able to, to support the beneficiary. So one of these documents would be, for example, a bank officer statement. A lot of people are confused by that document. They are not sure what that is. So supporter will be able to get that going to the bank and getting a balance summary for the past 12 months, indicating when the account was opened, how many deposits were there, what were the amounts of the deposits for the past year, as well as the current balance on the account. And the information is very crucial. It has to be for the past 12 months. Besides that, providing an income tax return for year 2021 is important. Providing an employment verification letter where your employer would indicate that you are employed, when the employment started, the position, and whether your employment is permanent or temporary. Verification of the status is important. So if the person is a U.S. citizen, it's either a passport or a birth certificate or naturalization certificate. If it's a green card holder, a copy of the green card. If it's a visa holder, then a copy of the visa. Very important to confirm that you are in the legal status in the United States. Besides that, if supporter has any assets and is providing that information, a copy of a deed, a title for the cars, if they are providing any of that information, is also very crucial. The information that is required of sponsors is not complicated to get for somebody who is in legal status in the United States. They just have to make sure that they have that available once they are filing the form. And to complete I-134 would probably take somewhere from 45 minutes to 1 hour if everything is available to the supporter, because he or she knows information about himself or herself. And also, if they have any dependents, it's also important to include any children or any senior people that they are supporting.
This is extremely helpful, thank you. And I see a number of questions have come in, Olga, that I will be turning to you at the end to go to. I just want to make sure that we have time to get to the other speakers first, but thank you again for this overview. And I would like to go to Rachel Quint next for a demonstration of the Welcome Connect platform. As Olga mentioned, the first step to becoming a sponsor is identifying someone looking for sponsorship if you have not already done so. And to facilitate this process, Welcome.us recently developed and launched an innovative matching platform, Welcome Connect. In fact, this was just launched last Wednesday. This platform will help to simplify the process by which Americans, everyday Americans, can be matched or connected with Ukrainians seeking sponsors. And Rachel, over to you to walk us through.
Thank you so much, Denise. I'm going to just share my screen. I think Sahar, you may need to, there we go. So let me quickly share my screen. So just giving a quick overview on this platform was developed with these 4 principles in mind, really focusing on making sure that we center the beneficiaries as people in Ukraine who are already in a vulnerable situation, and really making sure that they're provided agency, making sure that sponsors are provided with the support to be successful, inclusion, including all kinds of sponsors and beneficiaries, and of course, data security and privacy. So just wanted to kind of highlight that is the ambition of the platform. And I'll give a quick overview of what it looks like. So if you go to connect.welcome.us, which I will type in here, so it's connect.welcome.us, you will get to this page where there's a link for Ukrainians and a link for US sponsors. This page is also available in Ukrainian. And what you'll see, so it's available right now for sponsors, and tomorrow morning it will also be available for Ukrainians. So I'll give you a preview of what that will look like. So the first thing you do is click Become a Sponsor, and it will bring you to the platform. I'm going to give a quick demo. So the first screen will be the registration page, where you're going to input your information and a little bit of just making sure that you're eligible for being a sponsor. And when you hit submit, there's a series of email verification steps, and you will set a password. This is the screen to set a password. And then finally, you'll be able to log in with your account. The next screen that you'll see is a series of to-dos. So this is kind of what the platform looks like on the inside. So first, you'll see that there's a series of steps that kind of are outlined for what happens on the platform. So the first one is completing an online training. So that's what this looks like. You'll see there's links, and if you click on the link, it'll bring you to a training module, which is an interactive training module that we developed in collaboration with Community Sponsorship Hub. And then once you clicked in to all of the modules, it will give you a chance to close that task. And then you can see here, then step 2 is to tell us about yourself. So that's about completing a profile. So you can see here, this is the screen to create a profile as a sponsor, upload an image, and answer a series of questions about yourself and what kind of family you are able to support. And that includes telling us a bit about yourself and a bit about the community or town where you live to help the Ukrainian kind of understand the place that they may be coming to, as well as some information about who you're sponsoring with and if you're affiliated with an organization. What will happen after you complete your profile is a sponsor will be put into a pool of potential sponsors. And when beneficiaries create their accounts, beneficiaries will be able to see a set of sponsors that may meet their criteria and reach out to a sponsor. And by reaching out to them at that point, the sponsor will be able to view the profile of the beneficiary to determine if it's a good match. They'll be able to message back and forth and make a decision about whether or not that is the right set of people to be a sponsor and sponsoree. Just to give a quick view, so this is what's available right now on the site is for sponsors to log in now, create an account, and to be put into that pool of potential sponsors. Here you'll see this is what the Ukrainian beneficiary side will look like. So similar, available in English and in Ukrainian. Actually, the whole site will be available in both languages starting tomorrow, both on the sponsor side and the Ukrainian side. So really excited for folks to start signing up to be sponsors on the platform. Happy to answer questions. And we already have several hundred sponsors in the mix and expecting lots of Ukrainians to log in tomorrow.
Thank you, Rachel. And again, a really incredible work that you and the team with Welcome and many of partners did over the course of a month to develop this. So thank you very much.
And apologies for not acknowledging this platform was developed in partnership with Goldman Sachs, with ServiceNow, Infosys, Gibson Dunn, and with the input and advice from a bunch of our partners, including those on the call.
Thank you. And I will turn to two of those partners right now at Community Sponsorship Hub, Aubrey and Deb. And first, Aubrey, I will turn to you, and then Deb, I have a question lined up for you. And so Aubrey, community sponsorship is a unique opportunity for private citizens to play a role in welcoming newcomers into their communities. Can you tell us about the Community Sponsorship Hub and exactly what is community sponsorship?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'll first just say that the U.S. has a long and rich history of everyday Americans like you on the call supporting newcomers. Following World War II, local communities, churches, and neighbors provided support to European refugees as they resettled here. And this tradition has continued over the past half decade. Today, our capacity to welcome and support newcomers is expanding as community sponsorship opportunities increase. Community sponsorship enables everyday Americans, like us on this call, to directly and meaningfully support newcomers as they relocate and rebuild their lives in our neighborhoods. Through community sponsorship, local groups come together to provide critical financial and support services to newcomers. This responsibility of welcoming is both serious and rewarding. Sponsors like you will take on tasks like finding initial housing, stocking the pantry, connecting children to school, providing initial income support, and helping adults find employment. Through community sponsorship, newcomers are able to establish new and critical relationships within their community that will support them as they rebuild their lives. And we at the Community Sponsorship Hub are really excited about the expanding community sponsorship programs and opportunities across the United States. We, like Welcome, launched in September of 2021 to support the expansion and enhancement of community sponsorship programs. Our mission is to grow the role of communities in the protection, resettlement, integration of refugees and other forcibly displaced people. We mobilize civil society in the public and private and philanthropic sectors and empower them with the resources and access they need. And in that way, we shape and coordinate a community sponsorship system that leverages the power of welcoming Americans. At our core, we imagine a future where the whole of society meaningfully engages in the protection, resettlement, and integration of refugees and other forcibly displaced people. And based on those of you on the call today, the numbers of participants, I see we're close to getting there, maybe just a little further to go. But there are two ways that we do this, and there are a couple of ways, but two that are key for today's discussion is we coordinate with other actors like our partners on this call, and we help extend and build capacity. So through our design and coordination, we leverage resources at the local, regional, and national level to support this expanded community sponsorship program. And then through our capacity building, we work with traditional and non-traditional stakeholders to engage in an expanded community sponsorship program. One way that we're going to talk a little bit about on the call today that we do this coordination and capacity building is through the Sponsor Circle program. The Sponsor Circle program is an innovative community sponsorship program that centers communities at the heart of welcoming newcomers to the United States. And although it's an innovative program, it builds off the rich history of community-based engagement in the United States to date. So we're just really excited to be here with you and look forward to any questions you have about our role and about community sponsorship more generally.
Thank you, Aubrey. And Deb, over to you. Can you tell us more about your work, the Community Sponsorship Hub's work on the Uniting for Ukraine initiative, and how can those who are interested in participating in Uniting for Ukraine get started?
Yeah, thank you so much, Denise. So just building off, taking a step back and building off Aubrey's information, the Sponsor Circle program for Afghans as a model has been expanded to be able to support Ukrainians through the Uniting for Ukraine initiative. And no matter where you're located in the US, everyday Americans can welcome newcomers to their communities to provide them support while leveraging guidance and resources that are available through the Sponsor Circle program. So while only one person is required to serve as a sponsor through Uniting for Ukraine, we believe that sponsorship is really most successful when it's groups of individuals, friends or colleagues, neighbors, faith community members that come together, pooling their resources and their welcome to assist newcomers to navigate the new community and help them to access available services and supports. And just to talk a little bit about how it works, sponsors who would like to have support in navigating the sponsorship process, the Sponsor Circle program has started accepting applications at sponsorcircles.org, where you will see the picture that you see on the screen here, where it will walk you through the application process for the Sponsor Circle program for Ukrainians. Essentially, it requires that sponsors form a group of at least 5 people, complete background checks and training, develop a welcome plan that details how the group will support the newcomers in carrying out any initial tasks needed to help them settle in the community. once those requirements are completed, sponsor circles will be connected to an organization that will provide them with additional guidance and support for the first 6 months of sponsorship. Through the Sponsor Circle program, sponsor circles will have access to application support, temporary housing credits that are offered through Airbnb.org, and a growing suite of sponsor tools and ongoing guidance offered by welcoming experts. In addition, sponsor circles will also have access to other resources, some of which I believe we have some slides to show you examples of some of the resources that are available. So as you can see here, we have a budget template. There's guidance for supporting newcomers, initial service checklist, sample group structure. All of these are really go into great detail, and I know it can be a little bit hard to see perhaps on the screen, but if you go to the sponsorcircles.org website, all of these materials are available for you to review and study before you even start the application process.
Excellent. Thank you, Deb. I really appreciate that. And these resources are so very helpful. We've worked in this space a long time together, and these really are designed to set sponsors and welcomers up for success. So thank you. And now, if we can move on to, yes, the sponsorship resources that we have, guidance for supporting newcomers, sponsor group roles, the budget template, fundraising tips and tools are some of just a few of the resources that are available on the Community Sponsorship Hub. So thank you. And now we are at the Q&A part of the webinar. And I'm very excited. We have a number of questions, and please continue to submit them as we go through. And so I will turn over to the panelists and this is a one that we get often. Can a nonprofit organization act as a supporter, or does it have to be an individual?
Denise, I think I can take this one. I believe, yes, an NGO can be a supporter. However, to complete I-134, there has to be a person that is responsible for completing it, somebody within the organization that will be signing the I-134. It's crucial. And then the NGO would be showing the for any financial information with which they will be supporting the beneficiary. But it's important to have a representative.
Great. And so if I understand correctly, an individual has to file the form. So I, Denise Bell, would file the form, but I would then submit a letter of a nonprofit organization that would be supporting me.
Right. And then any resources, financial resources that your organization has and will be used to support the beneficiaries will have to be demonstrated to the USCIS to approve an NGO as a supporter.
Great, thank you, Olga. And I also on ukraine.welcome.us, we have an FAQ that does answer that question and a number of other questions in here. So in addition to this recorded webinar, you can go to our FAQs to get a lot of information. So the next question is the housing support of a sponsor for the beneficiary for 2 years or permanent?
It's just for the period of the humanitarian parole, so it's just 2 years. Okay. And in case that housing support is needed, because in many cases, the beneficiaries will be living in their own homes, apartments that, you know, they will be given employment authorization, so they will be able to support themselves.
And that's a really great point. Thank you, Olga. Again, the support that a supporter offers or a sponsor offers is for potentially for the duration of the parole. But again, many people are going to be working, they're going to have their own housing, they're going to want to, as many of us do, support ourselves. So here's a very technical question. Can an immigrant with their DHS travel authorization file an I-76 work permit form before entering the US?
I wouldn't recommend doing that before entering the US because the humanitarian parole is granted at here in the United States in the airports. So I would strongly recommend the beneficiaries to arrive to the United States, settle in, and then apply for their I-765 work authorization.
Right, thank you. And I also wanted to say, and Olga, because obviously you're the immigration lawyer here, you're answering many questions, but for other speakers, Deb or Aubrey or Rachel, always feel free to jump in and add to the answers. And the next question is, this is a little long, but it goes, my sponsor told me that he signed the document which states that U4U is a sponsorship program and the beneficiary shall not ask the US government for any public benefits. And the sponsor himself is responsible for the beneficiary in this scenario. And they are talking about what we would call Medicaid or food assistance. Is it safe for the beneficiary to use such benefits, or will, after, if the beneficiary did, would the sponsor receive bills for the benefits that the beneficiary claimed? So this is about public assistance.
I can take this one just to point you to where there's more information. On our website, there is an FAQ and there's a question specifically about this one that I will make sure and read the right information. The question on the FAQ is, what types of government assistance might Ukrainians on humanitarian parole be eligible for? And it can walk you through those that they are eligible for. And maybe Olga can take the point about getting a bill.
I'm sure it's a very sensitive question to answer right now, Denise, and all the participants. I just want you to understand that beneficiaries arriving on humanitarian parole to the United States, we're United for Ukraine program, although they are sponsors, there are sponsors involved, they are arriving on humanitarian parole. So the law that was signed by President Biden in May of this year specifically indicates that there will be benefits that Ukrainians arriving on humanitarian parole are eligible to apply. So I guess this is more of an operational question, right? That the answer to which is not really clearly available right now. But I would say that the totality of the circumstances will have to be taken into account to decide whether a sponsor will be responsible for any of that, and whether they can provide that instead of a beneficiary applying for federal benefits.
Thank you.
And I also, sorry, quickly
yes,
just
please.
add to that on the welcome.us Ukrainian portal, there are some fact sheets and some guides there over kind of a guide to enrolling in certain benefits as well. So I think are useful and helpful.
And
thank you, Aubrey.
Sorry, I might also add to that, first of all, these are all fantastic questions that folks are asking. They're all the right questions. One of the benefits of being a sponsor circle and going through the sponsor circle program is that sponsor circles have access to guidance and assistance on answering a lot of these questions with organizations that are what we call sponsor circle umbrellas, and which sponsor circles will be matched with in order to help guide you through a lot of this information.
And so thank you very much. And again, we will put into the chat these resources so people can easily go to them, both with Community Sponsorship Hub and the Welcome.us Ukraine Hub. Olga, this is a question for you, but again, please, everyone can come in, and particularly, well, Rachel, Aubrey, or Deb. There are a number of questions coming up about, can a nonprofit apply? Can a business apply? Can a group of unrelated people apply? And specifically, this question is, how do you fill out the I-134 if you are sponsoring as a group of unrelated people? So I think it would be very helpful if someone could walk through that an individual needs to apply, but how groups can come together to sponsor a beneficiary.
Right. So I believe it was mentioned during our webinar today. Also, it is mentioned on the welcome.us website that a group of people is welcome to be sponsors for a family or a person arriving. Yes, as I indicated before, one person will be filling out I-134 because it's not made to be very inclusive to provide information about a group of sponsors, but you would include the additional documents that would pertain to other sponsors. So if one sponsor, for example, be providing financial support, they would have to show their bank statements, they would have to show their income tax returns to be able to confirm. And there is a part also in the application that is additional information. You can use that additional information part to target specific questions. There's a drop-down menu, and you would select which question you're answering to. So if you are indicating there is more than one supporter, you would indicate that there is another supporter, what's the name of the supporter, and how that supporter would be participating.
Thank you, Olga. And Aubrey, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I was going to say we helped Welcome develop a couple of the fact sheets that are now available on the Ukrainian portal. And I'll just say, if you are going to be engaging as an organization or a group, there's some really useful guidance on there for you on how to kind of structure and identify roles within those organizations and groups. So there's a fact sheet, again, on the ukraine.welcome.us/resources that would be really helpful for groups engaging in this. And if you're coming in through the Sponsor Circle program, we also provide some resources, additional resources to help groups and organizations who are going to be sponsoring through that.
Thank you. And then to follow up on that, there are some specific questions around the Sponsor Circle program. And I will just run through a few and then turn that over to you and Deb to answer. First, is there any guidance on income or asset thresholds in terms of the funds available for support? Does the formation of a sponsorship circle enable a circle to demonstrate a collective financial capacity to support a beneficiary? And also, the Sponsor Circle program does require 5 people. What happens if there's just a single family looking to sponsor? Are they not able to form a circle? Are they not able to access those resources on sponsor circles? What would you recommend for people who want to become a sponsor circle but might not have 5 individuals?
So for those, the question about what happens if you don't have 5 individuals, or if you're just a single family looking to sponsor, there's no requirement as to who comprises the 5 members of your circle, but all members of the circle will need to pass a regular background check, like volunteers for any organization usually do. But we also offer on the website guidance on how perhaps to engage other members of your community who may wish to join with you. Maybe it's if you belong to a book club or a gardening club or some other civic organization, you'd be amazed when you put the word out what people, how people really step up. So there's there are many ways to become a sponsor circle. I'm sorry, Denise, the other question that had to do with finances, could you repeat that, please?
Yes, the question is, does the formation of a sponsorship circle enable a circle to demonstrate a collective financial capacity to support a beneficiary without a single individual having to demonstrate this?
So for the purposes of the Sponsor Circle program, there is no threshold. That would be in filing the I-134, and Olga would be a better person to speak to this probably than I am. So long as you've passed that threshold, really the guidance that we provide through the Sponsor Circle program is just thinking through what are the resources that might need to be fundraised for or might need to be available to support an individual or a family. Again, all of these are really guidance, but they're based on best practices in sponsorship in a variety of contexts. as the saying goes, your mileage may vary. So of course it depends on, where you're located and what's the cost of living in your city and how big of a family you might be supporting. So we have guidance, but there's no specific requirement.
Great, thank you, Deb. And this question comes up a lot for Ukrainians who are displaced in other countries but are eligible for Uniting for Ukraine. How do they submit the forms that they need for their end of the application, whether they be biometrics or other forms of information, if the USCIS office or the consulate in the country in which they're sheltering is closed? So for example, somebody is sheltering in Portugal, but they're not able to submit anything to the Portuguese field office. How do people who are displaced file the information they need to be sponsored?
Denise, I believe I can take this question. So if we're talking about the beneficiaries and the beneficiary part of the confirming the information that is needed, once the sponsor's application is approved and the declaration of financial support is found sufficient, beneficiary receives an email. In that email, they are required to create a beneficiary account on the USCIS website. This, once they have created that account, they will have to include their receipt number and their online access code to be able to access their information. Here, they will have to complete 4 steps. Step number 1 would be confirming the biographic information about themselves that was already entered by the supporter. So confirming if the name is correctly written, the passport number, the expiration of the passport, where the person was born, where do they live. Confirming that requires just reviewing the page and submitting that information. The next step would be confirming vaccination requirements. If beneficiary received vaccine for measles, if beneficiary received a vaccine for polio, and at least one FDA-approved vaccine for COVID, they just confirm that information on the in their account as well. It is a very good idea to bring proof of that, right? So getting the records from their doctors would be very much advised, and translating that into English in case the officer who's giving humanitarian parole in the airports in the United States require that information. However, we understand the challenges of getting that. At this point, many people don't have access to those records, right? And if COVID certificate is something available on everybody's phone right now, polio records, measles records would not be. So you will have to obviously, do that in good faith. And if you are not able to obtain those records in good faith, you'll have to explain that to the officer at the border. However, you confirm that information in your account. The next step would be confirming minor attestation. That is, a person that is minor would not be traveling without at least one of the parents or a legal guardian that was court appointed. That is also done via the online account, and including here information about any travelers coming with you, like your children or your husband, your wife. That's it. They don't have to go to the embassy or consulate to go through a biometric screening, go through any background checks, all of that. Yes, they are vetted for by the CBP, the beneficiaries, if there are any violations, but it's done remotely. The beneficiaries don't have to go anywhere to complete that step.
Thank you. And so this is very helpful. You brought out several pieces of information that people have been asking about. One is that the Department of Homeland Security, the US Department of Homeland Security, vets not only sponsor applicants, but also the Ukrainians, the beneficiaries. So the US government is vetting everybody. Ukrainians, no matter where they are, who are eligible for the Uniting for Ukraine program, all of this is done online. So they don't need to visit a field office of any US government agency. And then other processes can happen at the border, at the US border when they arrive, particularly around vaccination proof. And there are processes to set in place to help people get through that and demonstrate whatever they need to, even if they don't have the vaccination card with them. But I think the most important thing, and I know this comes up a lot, is that the US government is the vetting agency for all parties, and that all of this is online to facilitate the application. I'm sorry, go on, Olga.
I just want to mention a very important, crucial step that many people forget. Once they are in the United States, the beneficiaries, they have 14 days to complete any missing vaccinations that they indicated that they don't have for some reason, and complete the TB tuberculosis screening. Very important, because if they don't, their humanitarian parole might be terminated.
Thank you. And I'm glad, because that often is not brought out, that they have 14 days to finish what they need to do so that they can continue to stay in the country with their humanitarian parole. And speaking of length of residence in the United States, the humanitarian parole is for up to 2 years. And so is there the possibility to stay in the US beyond the 2 years? And what form of legal status might a person have then?
Sure. So this is a temporary program, only for 2 years. The instruction is really clear. The idea is that the people come here to safety and will return to Ukraine once it's safe. As of right now, there is no clear path to get, I think I saw the question, to get a green card in the United States from humanitarian parole that beneficiaries will receive. However, this is something that should be discussed with the immigration attorney. Everybody's case is different. I cannot answer this question, with respect to all the participants that are out there, but there are ways to do it, but it will depend on the individual case of every beneficiary.
Thank you. And we are almost at time, so I will start winding down. We have 2 final questions. Deb, this is for you. There are some questions around the sponsor circle applications. So if a sponsor circle applies, does everyone in the group submit all the financial documents, or does it remain with one person to submit the documentation for the sponsorship application?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Denise. So I think an important distinction to make is that these are 2 separate processes. To become a sponsor circle is different than being a sponsor that is submitting an I-134 through Uniting for Ukraine. So there are certain requirements for submitting the I-134 that in terms of the financial documentation that are not part of the sponsor circle program. Really, the goal of the sponsor circle program is if you are already committed to being a sponsor and you have filed an I-134 or you want to file an I-134, the sponsor circle program exists to be able to help you and a group of at least 5 individuals who all live in the same city to be able to come together to provide this support. So they are 2 distinct things.
Okay, great. And again, we will share in the chat box the links to Community Sponsorship Hub so that people can apply for the Sponsor Circle program for Ukrainians. The last question here is, and this is to the audience, the speakers, how many applications have already been submitted under the Uniting for Ukraine program? How many have been approved? And do you think that the 100,000 threshold could be increased when met? Rachel?
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, Denise. So I will, I'll see if we can get that information out.
I can answer the question. I saw
Okay.
you smile. I will answer the question.
Thank you. Sorry, I could look, but you may know them off the top of your head.
No. So I will speak for everyone here. Right now, we know that almost 65,000 supporter applications have been filed, that almost 40,000 beneficiaries have been approved for travel, which is extraordinary, and that almost 16,000 have traveled to the United States. Again, this is extraordinary given that this program was launched on April 25th and shows the commitment and desire to welcome of Americans to really work to get people here this quickly, and the US government, which has really expedited a lot of processes. The government has been very clear. When the president said that 100,000, it was willing to welcome 100,000 Ukrainians, that was not a ceiling, it was a threshold. And that the government was willing to meet the desire of the American people to welcome. And so if we continue to file applications, the government has indicated that it would continue to admit Ukrainians under the Uniting for Ukraine program. Of course, it is a government program and there are lots of caveats and we don't run the program. We're here to make sure people are aware of it and facilitate them applying for it. But already we are more than 2/3 of the way in terms of applications. And if we double that, we hope that that means that double the number of people will be able to come. And with that, I'm really grateful for everybody for participating today. Many, many thanks to Olga, Rachel, Deb, and Aubrey for sharing their expertise and answering all of the questions. For everyone who would like to stay involved, please go to ukraine.welcome.us to sign up to learn more about our future webinars, including, this is number 2. We have the next one coming in just a few days, and we will be sending another reminder email about that. And these will run through the summer. We really want people to be aware, to be engaged, and to be able to participate in this extraordinary moment to welcome Ukrainians and other newcomers. And with that, thank you very much.